definitely pulling right now.
Man, what an evolution. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, he turned the bow around. I think he's just keeping pressure on her for when these waves kind of work it loose, you know?
Sector Juno 6032. Right now we are on scene where the boat ran aground on Low Island.
Roger, good copy. I'll pass it along.
He's pulling.
Yeah, he is.
Just squatted his stern.
Oh, no. That was horrible.
Oh, it's starting to... There it goes.
Oh, man.
The vast Alaskan wilderness. A place where beauty is cloaked by danger. Here, every day, the highly trained men and women of the U.S. Coast Guard risk their lives to save others. America's deadliest waters are protected by Coast Guard Alaska.
Nav, I'm working on flight control. GPS are up.
Okay, second off, please.
Second off.
We're being launched for a vessel that is aground in Low Island, which is about 12 miles off of Sitka.
Coming off. All right, looking good.
We know that it's a steel-hulled fishing boat with 2 people on board, and that Sitka Mountain Rescue is aboard a Good Samaritan vessel on scene with them, but unable to get to the people.
3, it's a go ahead.
There's taxiing for the runway at this time. 04, persons on board, first star, request to take our radio guard.
3, it's a gear, roger.
The vessel was already aground, so we weren't worried about bringing an extra pump. There was no extra equipment we needed. We were just gonna get ready to do a hoist of 2 gentlemen off of the back of a boat.
All right, takeoff checks are complete.
All right, clear rack, coming up.
Once we take off, it's about a 5-minute transit to Low Island where the vessel's aground. It's called Low Island because it's a kind of a tidal island. When the tide's low, the island appears.
All right, you can do rescue check part 1, please. We're going to get on scene, see what the scenario is, and then most likely we'll be getting these guys off of here. Correct. Hoist.
Low Island is really close to the air station, and a lot of us spend our off time over there surfing and fishing and stuff like that, so we're really familiar with the area. And once we heard the pipe that it's at Low Island, we just got in the helicopter and got there as quick as possible.
How in the hell did they get there? Must have been anchored up to this area and broke anchor or something.
We're looking at the boat that is significantly way up the reef, and there's hardly any of the boat underwater already, and it's just outside of high tide.
All right, so they have both their outriggers out. You got a lot of stuff on deck. Don't see many clear areas.
So the boat is on its side, and we begin trying to determine whether we need to immediately hoist the people off, or whether we can land on Low Island, whether we can hoist the people off of Low Island, and see what the safest scenario is.
Find out how stable they feel their vessel is. Is it not going anywhere?
Fishing vessel Mirage, this is Coast Guard Rescue helicopter on 2-2.
Yeah, Coast Guard Rescue, Mirage.
Roger, can you tell us how stable you feel on the rocks there? Does the vessel feel like it's about to roll over?
Yeah, the swell just kind of places me up a little bit higher. It's stable right now.
There's still 4-foot seas hitting this vessel. We immediately could tell that it was a rough night. That boat was getting banged up further and further ashore. It was very fortunate that the boat was still intact and they were able to stay safe aboard.
We're looking at your vessel. You have a lot of gear that may be difficult out. Is there a spit of land that would be safe to disembark the vessel? We're seeing the waves kind of crash around the vessel. It looks like you're in about 6 inches of water.
Yeah, Roger. Deploy the little Zodiac that's on the deck and get over to that little spot of land right beside us here and get clear of all the rigging.
Hoisting in this case would have presented a couple of challenges. Their fishing gear was all out. There was a lot of lines and cables in the hoisting area, as well as the vessel being aground meant that it was leaning over to its side. So putting a basket on deck would slide across the deck and make it hard for someone to climb in without help.
I think the spot land would be easier than hoisting them. To land? Yeah. Yeah, it would be.
Even though that's shallow water, though, that's pretty significant water push.
And that's my worry. This might be a time where we just want to wait. And if they're stable, we've got a ton of gas on us right now. We can sit in orbit here. That boat ain't going anywhere. And the other thing is the tide's going out, so there's going to be less and less waves. If the tide goes down, they can walk to land, and we don't have to hoist them.
We were launched to recover the 2 people from this vessel. And as we got on scene, we looked at it, was not urgent. They were not in immediate danger, but they couldn't be left on the boat because we couldn't predict what the weather was going to come in and do. Or if one of them got in a medical condition later, we wouldn't want to come out in bad weather. So we can slow down, we can look at the conditions here and possibly land and have the people disembark the boat on land versus expose them to extra risk.
So it's basically picking the safest time. What do you guys think? You guys happy with that?
Yes, I think that's the best idea.
And Mirage from the helicopter. Right now, Cap, as long as your boat stays stable and you don't have any injuries, we think it may be safer to wait until the tide goes out a little more so the waves aren't crashing as you're getting off the boat. I don't think it's worth trying to hoist you off the boat right now, but if the scenario changes, we can certainly change plans.
Sounds good. I'll just stand by and wait for instructions.
Hopefully you can be disembarked right onto the shoal and walk up. We'll land or hoist you from there.
As we're orbiting, waiting for the tide to be out far enough, we've decided that we're going to find a good, safe spot to land.
Didn't see it on this pass. You able to see what the terrain looks like on the port side of the boat?
All the speed here along this coast, it's pretty similar. It has, that volcanic, like those little tide pools almost.
So there's some pretty rough terrain down there.
Yeah, so I totally agree with them walking on the beach, but you're definitely going to want to wait till pretty much all of the water clears out then, because that pulls with some pretty significant force right there. Because then you won't really be able to see. Because I know, because we surf here all the time, and when you're walking out and that stuff, even if it's only very shallow, that sucker will put you right on your rear end.
Low Island is a very gradual beach, and it's pretty rocky. And what had happened is there was a decent swell, and it kept bashing up against the boat and just pushing it further and further up on Low Island, especially as the tide started rising. So at this point, he's in a pretty bad situation down there.
That water pull is really strong, sir.
Yeah, it wouldn't be nice for someone to break their leg, so...
And then imagine walking in a Guppy suit.
Yeah.
So we waited about a total of an hour. Once the tide was down, the vessel pretty much had a nice path.
And you guys ready in the back?
Roger that. We are ready for approach. Sector Juno, be advised we are going to be landing. We will contact you when you're born again.
All right, you come in. Roger. Ease forward. Ease forward. Clear left. Ease forward left.
We commenced our approach and went in a low hover. In this case, with the spot we had picked out, it wasn't as friendly as we thought it looked from the sky. There were some bigger holes that we had to avoid with the tires. So I'm calling the pilot to another spot that looks a little better once we're down lower.
And you are clear down. 4 foot for the veil. And the main percussion.
As we're coming into a rough area like this lava rock was, the pilots depend on the flight mechanic to be the eyes below the aircraft. We have 3 tires that all need to sit on a safe area, and then we have 3 gas tanks, we have a camera, we have a searchlight, we have all kinds of things hanging below the aircraft that could be damaged by rocks. We also want to make sure whatever we land on can take the load of a 20,000-pound helicopter.
Sector, be advised we are going to be landing.
As we get on scene, we're looking at the boat that is significantly way up the reef, and there's hardly any of the boat underwater already, and it's just outside of high tide. That boat was getting banged up further and further ashore.
And you are clear down.
We immediately started seeing that we can land versus, expose them to extra risk.
And the main percussion.
When we land, Cam's plan was to come up to the side of the boat, see if they can safely disembark, make sure they were okay, there weren't any injuries that they could exacerbate by jumping off the boat.
The fishing boat, it's just an unbelievable sight because you know that it doesn't belong there. And my job really is just to escort the 2 individuals to make sure that they make it safely into the helicopter.
So once Cam gets the captain and his crew aboard, he lets us know immediately that there aren't any medical concerns. We already have the takeoff checks ready to go.
All right, so we got everything on the takeoff check, set the tail wheel. Tail wheel will be in.
Once the survivors were on board the helicopter, they looked to be a little tired, but in good health overall. Just make sure they were strapped in their seats for the short 5-minute flight back to the air station.
Good to go. You guys all ready for approach? Ready for approach.
EMS is not awaiting, it's not a very urgent scenario, so we come in, land, do a safe shutdown. We chat with the captain, make sure they're okay, and then they move on to start taking care of the significant issues they have to take care of.
My name is Jeff Turner. This is the fishing vessel Mirage, Salmon Troller, Southeast Alaska. See what we got here. We're gonna extract all the fuel off the boat, lighten the load, get all the other gear off we can, try to float this off, and see what's next. That's bad. It was a little late. I was out trolling. I was actually coming in to kind of work my way inside, but you know, just fatigue. Just closed my eyes too long. The waves are breakers. They really get steep and just kept pushing you in. There's a lot of power behind water, so it didn't stand a chance. Look at this. Bent the skag, rudder post is out. It held together well, but I mean, we're on rock, so not good. You know, once it kind of spun and turned, the waves just broke the gear off, and then it was over. Tide's going out, you know, no one's getting in here, and each one pounds you a little farther and higher up. It's just a scraping, grating, grinding, you know, roller coaster ride. So to assess how deep it is, it's a lot of beach out here. I mean, we're out at low tide, so we're gonna come back out tonight at high water and kind of look how close things are. But the best approach is, 50 yards away from the boat. Coast Guard Sitka Air Station, the crew that helped out and rescuing me, thank you so much. Make life safer. I mean, when it's bad for me and you come out and make it all better, I appreciate that. But right now, yeah, I'm try to extract the boat from the beach, get it somewhere where it can be worked on.
Oh, no. There it goes. Bow went under for a second there.
Wow, look at that.
That is riding low.
It is, oh man.
Oh, it's starting to, it's still bouncing on the run.
Oh my gosh.
I think they got it though. It's moving again.
Sector 6032, and last update, the boat is off the rocks and under tow at this time.
Watch your step. Oh, look at this, I'm the captain. Yeah, I needed to look out. You're my lookout here. AST-3 Cameron Cullen, Air Station Sitka, and we're getting ready to get in the boat and try to find some surf. We're probably gonna be hiking for like an hour or so.
All right. That's gonna be a tired hike back, huh?
It's pretty difficult to get good waves out here. You can't just drive up to the beach and paddle right out. So it's like 6 in the morning right now, and we gotta take an 1.5-hour boat ride to the north side of the island and then hike across the island just to hope for a good wave. So we'll see how it works out today.
Look at that, how beautiful is that?
We're so lucky right now to have this weather. It's like in the winter time and usually it's just pouring down rain, kind of nasty, and it gets to you after a while, and then just when you start getting sick of it, you get a beautiful day like this and then you realize why you live here.
I can't describe the feeling when you're just on the back of a boat while you're watching the wake and then the sun's coming over the mountains and you just feel at peace.
Sweet, let's unload.
It's an awesome day. Alaskan adventures can be a lot of different things, but today it was a boat trip, and now we're gonna go on a sweet hike, and then we're gonna find a gorgeous beach.
We're there, man. That's it. That's the beach. Look at these waves. Go, go, go.
Is this sand?
Yeah, finally, sand, sun.
Coming through the woods and it just opens up into this beach. and the sun's hitting it, and you see the waves, and all of a sudden, all the work is just that feeling of it's worthwhile. You still have to suit up, being January. You know, it's 39 degrees, so you need hood, booties, gloves, thick wetsuit. That's half the fun.
You ready?
Okay. Let's do it. From sea level to 3,000-foot mountain peaks with untampered rainforest and grizzled lava rocks all around you. I've surfed most places around the United States, and by far, this is some of the most pristine surfing. It's rare, but when you get it, what more can a surfer want?
You can't compare this day to any others. It's just absolutely beautiful, and the waves are fun. And we're here at a beach with absolutely nobody else out except me and my closest friends, so it's a great day.
We just got a call that there's a small 15-month-old child with a lower abdominal issue, potential blocked intestine.
She hadn't eaten in 5 days or hadn't gone to the bathroom in 4. For a little 15-month-old, that's a pretty dire emergency.
I would say the thing that's different about this case is it's a small child. There's very little concern from the background point of view. Right now, however, he doesn't know how quickly it can turn south. That means nothing dumb. We shouldn't be hurrying at all, which is why we're not hurrying right now. Cool. We just got a call from the Petersburg clinic that there's a small 15-month-old child with a lower abdominal issue, potential blocked intestine, and we're launching on that right now.
Brakes going off, PCO's going off. Start at 3, 2, 1. Ready forward.
So direct from Sitka to Petersburg would normally take us about 40 minutes if we could climb up and over. Tonight, with the weather being what it is, forcing us to take the longer route, it's going to take us about an hour and a half, not counting any headwinds that we may encounter.
In sector from the rescue 30, our ETA to Petersburg is going to be 0015 local time. How copy?
Rescue 30, sector, roger, copy, 0015, local.
This was a relatively slow developing case. The child had been having issues for about 10 days and had been having severe issues for a day or two. Now it's nighttime, weather is deteriorating, so my concern is primarily for my crew as well as the potential patient. So I talked to the flight surgeon and get his best recommendation of whether we can wait for the morning. It's always nicer to fly during the day, whether the weather's clear or not. And in his best medical opinion, he says that we should go, and so we do.
We're kind of in and out. Right now we're 00. I can't see the ground. We're kind of 500 feet. I can't see the water or anything in front of us, and then it'll kind of open up to a mile or two of viz, and you can see the water again, so it's kind of anybody's bet.
All right, if I get up and start moving around the cabin, start fixing things?
Yeah.
On the flight down to Petersburg, there's a couple things we actually have to talk about, me and the flight mech. One of the things that's kind of going through my mind at this time is not only how this little girl's doing, but it's also one of the quick times to inventory, that last-minute inventory of the stuff that I need, you know, planning for worst-case scenario for this little girl. And hoping that you'll never need it, but at least it's there in front of you so you can get to it quickly.
I mean, obviously everything's a little bit more delicate with the child. They were saying that, you know, if things went south, it would mean surgery or worse. And, you know, when you add a 15-month to the equation, people are going to be a little more spring-loaded to offer assistance. Right. Before landing, check out this crew brief.
See you make an approach to the runway. And sector from the rescue 30, we're touching down at Petersburg. We'll be on deck for an unknown amount of time. And then we'll give you guys a call as soon as we have the patient and we're up and flying.
We get to Petersburg, we land, and our swimmer heads out, and he actually leaves in the ambulance to go pick the baby up at the clinic.
I got to go in the ambulance, and they took us over to the clinic.
So we're going to just leave the basket on like this?
Yeah, let's just wheel it all in. Let's see how they're doing, what we're
doing.
doing. Let's figure out what we got to do. Good evening. How we doing?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, good.
So you getting report and taking on little Skylar?
Yeah.
Yay, okay.
I'm taking care of everything.
Okay.
So why don't you give me what we got before we go in and start? Got a quick little briefing, found out everything that was going on, kind of prepared myself. Got a pretty bucket.
Okay.
Put her in that.
Okay.
There we go. We got a pretty nice warm blanket. And one of the things that was really nice is that we have a quilt that a group in town made for us to take because they've seen a couple baby cases on Coast Guard Alaska. This is kind of nice because this is our first time that we actually get to use this. It's made with pretty much what they said was love. So not only are we going on this case, but we have a little bit of Sitka going with this case also.
Oh.
She's already in a lot of pain, completely discomfort. This has been going on for 10 days. And just that alone, and her being 15 months old, she needs higher care. All this is just a really warm sleeping bag. So if she gets real tired, we can just maybe slip her right here.
We can put her there.
You want to try? We just got a call for a medevac. The little girl has a bowel obstruction. She's been in pretty good distress and it's been going on for the past 10 days. She definitely needs higher care, and that's what we're here for.
Snuggle in, honey.
There we go.
Oh, it's okay.
Talk to the mother, let her know what was going to happen, where we're going to take her, just kind of reassure her that this is what we do for a living and you got nothing to worry about. All right.
Thanks, Skylar. Good night.
Come on, we'll go for a ride. She looked pretty good. I mean, considering what she had gone through. The nurses had told me that she hadn't eaten in 5 days or hadn't gone to the bathroom in 4. For a little 15-month-old, that's a pretty dire emergency. How long has this been going on?
10 days. We've been in twice, and they didn't do anything here. We insisted for the third time, but she was pretty bad by then.
And she hasn't gone to the bathroom in 4 days.
But she hasn't eaten in probably 5 days. And she's always thirsty though. But with it backed up, it's not really.
Yeah, there's that, yeah. When I talk to the mother of the little girl, she does seem a little anxious. It's late at night. It's going to be a long ride. My concern is that she doesn't get worse.
So they come back, Chris packaged up the small child, brought her back in. I knew a guardian, in this case, the mom was going to be coming with the child. So they get on, and I don't get any further updates. And really, I don't want them at that point. Our goal up front is to get the aircraft airborne and getting headed towards Juneau as quickly as possible. Chris basically does his thing, what he's trained to do, and is doing it well in the back. We're focused on flying and flying safely.
With the transport of the little girl to Juneau, luckily it's late at night, and any parent knows that as soon as you put a kid in the back of a car, they fall asleep. It was keeping my fingers crossed that that happened. One of the things that I thought would help her with this flight a little better is I let her play with a chem light, a real sparkly thing for her. It seemed to calm her right down and kind of focused her attention on the colors as opposed to what was going around her. And eventually it soothed her enough that she could actually fall asleep, which made my job in monitoring her so much easier.
I guess they fell asleep, huh? Sector from Rescue 30, we are 5 minutes out from landing in Juneau.
Little patches of fog, some rain, but the visibility is good from Petersburg all the way to Juneau. Goes off without a hitch, and we're on deck Juneau, I think within an hour of leaving Petersburg.
We're going to shut down completely for full air off.
Yeah, we will.
Okay, cool.
Good girl, good girl. I don't think I can hold you. Look. Look, you want this thing? No, stay there.
But Mom's in there with you. I know. Okay, Mom, if you want to come on out here, we'll start working on getting Skylar out. The plan is to meet Guardian, which is our Southeast Alaska life flight crew. As quick as we can, because it's raining, we want to get the little girl over to the Guardian plane and send them on their way.
What is the wrap?
We've got her in, she's got 2 blankets.
Okay.
And she's in our wiggy bag.
Okay, we're ready.
You ready for it?
Yeah.
Cases like these, it's a big effort on everyone's part to take one small individual in an isolated area through multiple means to higher level care in a whole nother state and actually help somebody in the community like that is fantastic.
Here, hold my hand.
My name is Tabitha Nelson, and we live at Point Agassiz, which is about 10 miles from Petersburg. Skylar's 15 months old, and she had been sick for about a week. We went into the clinic twice, and it just kept getting worse. So we took her in a third time, and they decided that they couldn't do anything, and they didn't know what it was, so they called the medevac. Did you miss Skylar? It's really stressful. That was the longest night of my life.
Here's your stick.
Can you shake it? Is that how it makes it work?
So they put her into surgery, and they still didn't know exactly what was going on. They went in looking for the bowel obstruction and found that, and the doctor kept searching, and that's when he found out that she also had perforated appendicitis, which is really, really uncommon for that age group.
You know, we may never know now how close she was, but you know, the reason we don't know is because the Coast Guard was willing to fly in here in the middle of the night and get her out. Get her down to Portland. And now here she is with a new lease on life. She's a happy little girl.
Is this your blanket?
Is that your blanket? You want to be wrapped up? Yeah, you do. Come here.
All right, come on this way, please. This is Chris Belisle. He's one of the rescue swimmers here. He's actually the first class in the shop who goes out on the cases, and we've been able to use some of your quilts.
Oh, thank you.
Give you a couple more.
All right.
Hopefully you can make good use of
Oh,
them.
I'm sure we will. We've had a string of them. Oh, that's a nice one.
It feels real good to be able to give these quilts that we've made and put a lot of love in them.
Thank you so much. I know that making quilts is a lot of work, but we really appreciate y'all being kind enough to let us have them and let us use them. You know, y'all have seen the helos before. They're just all kind of sterile, military, gray and black, kind of intimidating inside, noisy and shaky, and when you get little kids, something that's got a little color to it seems to help a little bit. It really means a lot to us. Thank you.
Glad you can use them.
No, yes, we're glad we can help a little bit. It's great to be a part of this team, more or less. They're the ones with all the training, and if there's some little thing we can do to make the person feel better, it's outstanding. It's just a neighbor helping neighbor.
A 14-foot skiff overdue down by, they said Petersburg, but it's actually closer to Wrangell. So one POB had engine trouble this morning. He was overdue at 5. Got it that long for the guy. Apparently they can hear him yelling, but they can't get to him.
Okay.
So I don't know why they can't get to him. But
Probably the rocks or something.
We just got a call that there was one POB in a small skiff that had been having engine trouble earlier. He didn't arrive when he was supposed to arrive, and that was 4 or 5 hours ago. And we're being launched to go see if we can find him. Good, Cam?
Yeah, good, sir.
You got everything you need?
No, cabin's good to go.
Okay. Okay, trucks. Remove. Before takeoff, checklist. Crew ready for takeoff.
Ready for takeoff.
Before we left, we heard that there was someone talking to the individual. It was verbal communication, but they were unable to actually get the guy. They confirmed that obviously there was a guy in distress nearby, but because of the nature of the wind and the water, they were unable to get to him.
We have 50 knots of wind. It's bouncing us around pretty good. A couple times it felt like somebody just grabbed the helicopter and just started shaking it violently.
Go! And weather was still good when we left?
It was.
Roger.
It looks like winds are going to play a bit of a role, so we'll wait till we get a little bit more accurate here before you give them an ETA.
Roger.
We just got a call that there was one POB and a small skiff that had been having engine trouble earlier, and we're being launched to go see if we can find them. Our plan was to go up and over Baranoff. The weather was calling pretty good. It was going to allow us to just climb up and over, which is fairly rare.
Sector from the 30, be advised you're airborne from Air Station Sitka at this time. We have 05 persons on board. En route for SAR.
Roger, 30 Sector, Roger. Guys, getting a little bumpy here.
Roger.
So we take off out of here and start climbing up to go up and over Baranoff Island. And as we get up through about 4,000 feet, we start to see that, this is not going to work out.
And it is snowing hard. Visibility is about a mile, maybe just under. It's a mile on goggles.
It's just starting to snow. The visibility in front of us, we can see that the ceiling's coming down. We're not going to be able to make it over the ridgeline. We start to lose the next ridgeline. That's, a few miles out in front of us. And it's windy, so it's particularly bumpy on this night.
Sucks is we got like a 30-knot tailwind pushing us into us, yes.
We looked at the weather just before taking off, and it was supposed to be pretty uneventful. It was supposed to be pretty good weather all the way over, and very typical Southeast Alaska. That's not the way it was at all. We hit a wall, and you pretty much look out the helicopter, and all you see is driving snow, and then lots of wind that's coming up and over the mountains.
The wind screaming out of Canada that's blowing it out is really a high-pressure system.
How's your visibility out the front?
No, I'm not visual at all.
At this point, we have 50 knots of wind. It's bouncing us around pretty good. We get to an area where the visibility drops down to 0. A couple times it felt like somebody just grabbed the helicopter and just started shaking it violently.
Whoa!
With a 50-knot crosswind coming directly from your left-hand side, the nose of the aircraft is going to be 30 to 45 degrees to the left of your actual track of flight. So if you were able to see anything outside, you basically see yourself traveling out your right-hand door. Even though the helicopter is pointed in one direction, you're actually going a direction that's, 45 degrees to the right of that in this case. So at that point, we decide that we're not going to be able to go over the island, so we're going to head back out over water and basically go all the way down south around Cape Omni, around Baranoff Island.
We'll go ahead, we'll come through as long as you can see summits. We'll cut off whatever we can here at Baranoff to get feet wet, and then we'll come back down.
Roger.
Well, the big question we had heading over there was, if the weather stays the same way, it's going to be very challenging getting to him and hoisting him. Luckily, Wrangell and Petersburg were both calling clear when we took off, so we were hoping that it was just an isolated weather system, and that's what it turned out to be. So we were in it for about 45 minutes, getting hammered, and it started getting better and better and better.
And Ray, you have door speed if you want to get the door open.
Roger, cabin door's coming open. Cabin door's open.
We just arrived in the general vicinity, and now it's time to look for the person. And there's actually a ground search and rescue team. They had a general idea of where he was at, so they shined their lights, and we followed where they were shining their lights, and we just communicated by the radio, and then we were finally able to find the person on the beach.
All right, how's that? Are you able to see?
Yeah, I can see fairly good. I've got the hover light on too, just so I can see the beach.
He had a makeshift air horn, I believe, that got the attention of the rescuers at first. They were unable to get to him, unfortunately, because they didn't have any asset that could cross the waterfront. Noticed that he was right there on the beach. He was waving a red gas can that he had strapped to like a paddle or something like that, so he was pretty easy to identify.
Do you see a good place to land there, Ray?
That's what I'm trying to look for. It's hard to tell to see how tall these rocks are or not.
Yeah, well, I mean, my plan is to kind of come hover over that area just to find an area that's good to land.
Roger.
As we come into a hover next to the island at about 40 feet, we see him start running towards the helicopter.
Hey, Ray, can you signal this guy to back up? What I don't want to do is just blow him or blow thing into him. If we can make it up to the side of him, that's great. Hopefully he will get out of the way.
Everywhere we go trying to find a spot to land, he runs under the helicopter and follows the helicopter. So we're trying to motion to him, signal to him to kind of move away so that we can, if we find a place to land, that we can actually set the helicopter down without landing on top of him.
And Petersburg Rescue from Coast Guard helicopter.
Petersburg Rescue here.
Hey, if you can get a hold of him, shout to him, whatever. We need him back by the tree line so we can land. He's walking out right where we're trying to put down.
We've not been able to communicate to him because of the loud sound of the wind.
And that's a firm from the Coast Guard.
My initial thought when he was running around below the aircraft was maybe he's hypothermic, maybe he just doesn't know what's going on.
My plan is to kind of come hover over that area just to find an area that's good to land.
Alarm went off for a boater in distress in the vicinity of Petersburg. As we come into a hover next to the island at about 40 feet, we see him start running towards the helicopter.
Hey, Ray, can you signal this guy to back up?
Everywhere we go trying to find a spot to land, he runs under the helicopter and follows the helicopter. So my initial thought was maybe he's hypothermic, maybe he just doesn't know what's going on. And so he's just kind of confused.
I mean, he's walking in the water. Almost feel like maybe he's just not with it, you know? Yeah. All right, I would recommend just hoisting cam down.
Yeah, I'm better with that than any other option.
I'm back there looking down at it. I can only see that it's a rocky terrain. I can't tell how rocky it is or whether or not one of the rocks down below is going to be tall enough that it could puncture a tank, puncture the bottom of the aircraft. At that point in time, it's easier and safer for us to do a hoist. It's more dangerous, but it's more of a controlled environment.
Let's go rescue checklist part 2.
Roger. Right underneath us, sir.
I think this would be a better plan to put Cam down somewhere up here. Yeah.
Roger, we might want to increase altitude because he's just going to keep chasing us and I can't see him right now.
Okay, roger that.
That way if he comes underneath us, I can at least see him and we're well away from us.
That's it.
Once we decide that I'm getting hoisted down, as a rescue swimmer, that's something I enjoy. And also, I just think that a lot of times it's a best case scenario because I get to get down there and see how the patient's doing exactly, because he's been outside for a very long time and it's extremely cold in Southeast Alaska. So I was worried that he was having hypothermia. And one of the stages with hypothermia is altered mental status. So we decided it wasn't a good idea to have him climb in the basket by himself.
Swimmer's ready. Roger, have target in sight. Cam's going out the cabin door for load check. Rescue swimmer's outside the cabin door. Load check complete. Rescue swimmer's going down. Forward 10. Ease forward. Ease forward and hold.
Just hoisted me to the ground, disconnect from the rescue hook, and I walk over to the survivor. And I'm just forming a general impression. I just want to get that idea of how exactly he's doing. So I start asking him some basic questions, see if there's any serious medical concerns, and I don't see any at the moment.
All right, this will be a basket pickup of the survivor from 40 feet.
Rescue check was complete, ready for one basket delivery and recovery of the survivor from 40 feet.
And my job is to put the survivor in the basket and just make sure the hoist goes smoothly. I want to make sure nothing's tangled around any rocks and that everything's hooked up correctly.
Have it ready for pickup. Easy back, sir. Easy back.
During the hoist of picking him up off the ground, the only thing I'm primarily concerned about is to make sure that he's not spinning or anything else like that and getting motion sick under the aircraft on his way up.
Basket is clear of the deck. Basket is on its way up.
Get the survivor up to the doorway, looks in good spirits. My focus is get the survivor situated, buckled in, and then going back out and getting Cam on a hoist hook.
Rescue swimmer is just below the aircraft. Trigger rescue swimmer inside the cabin.
Once I'm inside the helicopter, it's just my job to focus all of my attention on the survivor. At this point, he's just ready to get home, and he's pretty cold, so I just tried wrapping him up in some blankets.
So Cam, what's his deal?
Yeah, he said Petersburg, and he's totally fine to go. He said he just wants to get home and have a nice warm shower.
All right, so he's not hypothermic or anything?
He's cold. He's been out here all day, but he's fine.
And Petersburg Rescue, Coast Guard 6030.
Petersburg Rescue here.
Appreciate all the assistance tonight. Great job locating this guy. It would have taken us forever to do that.
Roger that. You guys did a great job. Thank you. It's great to have you guys out there.
Now we're just taking the patient to Petersburg, where his home's at. And he doesn't have any serious medical conditions, so we're not going to pass him off to any ambulances or anything like that.
So far, ready for approach.
Ready for approach.
Seemed like a slam bam, thank you ma'am kind of type case. But once we took off, the weather was definitely not what we expected it to be. So it was a good reminder that you just never know what's gonna happen in Alaska.
My name's Abraham Namey. Well, this is a smoker craft. It's a 14-footer. To be out there in that weather in this skiff was pretty spooky. It was pretty scary. There's water in the fuel system, and then that kind of got to it, and then it got so rough. When I got into those 8-footers around the point of the island, it just started coming over the motor, it just killed it out. I was like, oh man. The weather was 65, 70 gusts, it was just gusting right through this little pass, and the little passage of water through there was like a river rapid almost. I mean, it was just cruising. I just oared as hard as I could to that little island I stuck close by. Made it there and started instantly getting beat up on the rocks. I waved down my sister's old man, but he didn't see me or hear me because it was so windy and blowing. And we were just within a matter of 500 feet away. Beat it up pretty good. I got smushed between these two big boulders. It was just really crazy. It was so high up on the beach, I couldn't believe it. And behind the two biggest boulders you could think of. I mean, they were bigger than the skiff was. It was pretty crazy. Definitely take some experience away from that. Don't ever think you can judge Mother Nature, Don't ever think it's not that bad. Like, reassess the situation before you go into it. Make for sure that you're not gonna cause a big problem. Brand new skiff, pretty much. There was nothing wrong with it at all. But it's not completely totaled, but it did get hamburgered. 2 thumbs up for the Coast Guard. It's pretty nice to know that people are willing to put their lives on the line to save others. It means quite a bit.